All right. Good morning, everyone. I hope you all are doing well. I've gotten 2 or 3 emails in the last couple hours about this personal assignment. There's been a little bit of confusion about the change from Heroku to Render. Let me just say that if I look here at where Render is listed in the course setup, it says all information and videos about setting up Render for this class can be found on the deployment page. So if I'm ever having an issue with how to deploy to Render, this video will show how to do it. If I have an issue with setting up environment variables or setting up configuration for Render, here's where I can look at that. How to test the API with Render, here's where I can do that. So yes, there is code that we haven't come across in week 1, which is totally fine, but that doesn't change how we're actually going to do this. This page is very similar to if I was going to look at documentation for a programming language or something. There's a lot that I'm not going to need at any given moment, but there is stuff that I will need at almost every given moment. So that's where you can find everything that you'll need for Render throughout this entire semester. Now, with that said, let me just show you guys a quick example of how to complete this assignment. So this assignment actually has a solution available. So if you already have the Node stuff going and you have a little local web server working, that's awesome. What I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna go ahead and download this, and then I'm gonna make a new GitHub repository and a new project, and we'll try deploying it on Render right now, and hopefully it'll work for us. So I just downloaded this. Let me open up VS Code. I just made a new folder on my computer called CSE 341 test project. I haven't put anything in it. Let me go ahead and grab my download here. It looks like this. Okay, and it looks like it has the hidden files. I'm just going to grab everything here and I'm just going to drag it over to my test project. And I'll say copy folder. Then I can delete it out of my downloads folder. Okay, this proc file is for Heroku, so I'm going to delete that. We do not need it. Everything else in here we do need. So let's just look at this real fast. You know, maybe let's make sure it works. So I'm just going to say npm I in my terminal, which will install all of our dependencies that are listed here. So it looks like we're going to install Express and NodeMon. So that is in Node modules. It also added the package.json, and I should just be able to run npm start running on port 3000. Nice. So if I look at my server.js, we're using these routes, which are coming from /routes, which is this folder, index.js, and it says if I go to just the home page, it should send this text back. So I should, since this is a get, I should actually be able to test this in my browser, and I should see Sarah Birch. Okay, so this is totally working. I could play with this and add another route here if I wanted to and say test and put Nathan Birch here. Okay, still running on port 3000. I just put test right there and now it has Nathan Birch. Okay, so that's just a little bit about how these routes work. This is functioning perfectly for this assignment. Okay, so now I want to add this to GitHub and then deploy that GitHub repo to Render. All right, so in here, let's see. This is Git Lens. Wow. Wants me to like sign in. That's super lame. That's okay. So I'm going to say publish to GitHub. And I need these to be public repositories. I might have a few of these, so I'm just going to say 5. So I'm going to say publish to a public repository. We need all these to be public. Okay, and open on GitHub. Beautiful. Okay, so my code's there. It's on the master branch. I may want to change this to main eventually. It really doesn't matter that much, but okay, so I have this here and it is public. So I'm just going to copy this. On Render, I already have a Render account. So I just hit new and I'm going to say new web service. And then right here, I could just kind of scroll through here and look, and I could also just search for that one. It says I had a commit a couple of seconds ago, which is true. Okay, let's try this. I'm going to say CSE 341 test 5. We are in the master branch root directory. I'm not going to change. We don't have a weird root directory. We can say node. This build command, we're not using yarn as our package manager. We're using npm, so I'll change that to npm. The node server.js, that I should have a server.js file in here, and that would work. I can also run a command from my package JSON, which is nice. So my package JSON has this start script, which is not going to run well. NodeMon is only for development. This dependency is only a dev dependency. So if I wanted to do npm start, I would have to change this. So what I might do instead is I'll put a dev start like that, and then right here for our start command, we can take that NodeMon out. Okay, because on render, I just want it to run this, but locally, I'll want it to run this. Okay, and so now if I wanted to run this locally, I would just say npm run dev start, and it would do the same thing. It runs that command with NodeMon. Okay, right here. All right, so I'm going to push that change. Say adjusting build script. So I'll just say scripts in package.json and sync changes. Okay, so now on render.com, I can say, yep, just run npm start, and it'll do that beautifully. Okay, I'll do the free one, and I'll say create web service. All right, let's double check here to make sure we have 2 commits. We do. I should see that adjustment right there. So that's what it'll run on render. And this will take a few minutes. If I open this up in a new tab, well, you can see it's building right now. I'm going to go ahead and pause this video, and I'll unpause it if it comes across any errors or once it finishes. All right, so this did stop with an error. It probably took 3 or 4 minutes for this to stop. Let's look at this. So it says starting server with npm start. So the npm install worked out great. I should be able to scroll up and see that. Build successful deploying, starting server with npm start. It says it couldn't find server.js. And it looked, let's see here, opt render project source server.js. Okay, so if I look at my project, I should see a source folder, which it does not have. Okay, so 2 ways that I could fix this. One is I go to, where would that be in here? Settings, defaults to repository root. That should work because we didn't specify source. But it looked like it was looking at source. So let me go ahead. I'm just going to try making a new folder in here. We'll call it source. And everything for the actual code will go into source. So this is like my node project. And then settings for the project would be out here. The only thing I'll have to adjust is right here. I'll just say source/server and source/server. Yeah, it's weird. Let's see what happens. So if I say npm run dev start, okay, so that ran fine, and it'll still run exactly the same. So I'll just say adding source folder to help render deploy, sync changes. This should kick off a build. Let's go to events here. Nice, adding source folder to help render deploy. Okay, and I'm just going to click on that, and I'm going to watch this. All right, so it looks like this failed again. This time it's saying something about like a permission error here. It just says permission denied to try to change this. So one thought that I had, I'm just going to try to add this // here. It shouldn't change the functionality of anything else. It should still, yeah, it still runs the server just fine. So let's try this. I'll say attempt I'll say fix render deploy attempt 2. And let's sync that. And then the next one that I'll try, if this doesn't work, because before it was trying to look in there, and so I might just say that or even that again. We'll see. Okay, it is a little bit trial and error that first time. Once this is set up though, we're not gonna have to mess with it again. And so just so you know, this should be as easy as just running it. My build command is running here just fine, running npm start. Let's actually try that. So if I say npm start, interesting. Wow, that's actually the same thing that we just saw. Would you look at that? I wonder why it's doing that. Well, that's helpful that it's actually showing up here. So let's do some refreshing here. It's probably because this package lock JSON was not referencing the server.js file that was inside of the source folder. So let's get the package.json to where we want it. So I'm just going to say /source server.js, which is what we want. And then I'm going to run npm install. And then we'll see if that works locally. So I'm going to say npm start. Still says permission denied. Interestingly enough, this did work running that command, which is exactly what this should be doing. So I don't really understand why my package JSON script isn't running. But it's interesting because we could change the settings here to just run that. So if I say this start command instead of saying npm start, I could say node like I had here before, /source/server.js. Say save. That should kick off a new build here as well. Yep. That started just now. Okay, well, I'm really curious to see if this works, and I don't know right off why it's not liking my build script. It's not liking it locally either. Or my start script. It's interesting because this dev start is working. Oops. There we go. Yeah, that one's working just fine. Interesting. Okay, well, let's see what happens here. I'll go ahead and pause this, and I'll resume here in a sec. Okay, well, that took about a minute. It says build successful. It did run, it said starting service. Oh, starting service with node, that command that I put in there. Which means if I had just done that from the beginning, we wouldn't even have needed that. But I should be able to open this up now. Yeah, look at that. And I should be able to test out my other route as well and see Nathan Birch. So we successfully deployed it. Just out of curiosity, let me see. Now that I fixed everything, I'm going to see if I can break everything. I'll move this back out, move this back out, delete source. Okay, so this code is going to be exactly the same as the solution, except, let's see, I'm going to change this back and delete that. So that's where that was at, except it's just like that. Okay, let me just run that, make sure it works. Okay, so that works out great. I did add this, which isn't in the solution, just this route. And again, now that I changed this, I'm going to delete the node modules and delete the package JSON, and then rerun npm install with this new server location in there. Okay, and let's add one more route just for kicks. I'm going to say test2 Hannah Birch. Okay, I'm going to say let's install this. While that's running, I'm going to assume that this is going to work, and let's just say reverting code, sync changes. And then over here on render, I'm going to go back to this build command, that start command, and I'm just going to put this, say save changes. Okay, let's see how this does. Reverting code, another deploy started. So that one was from my commit, and this one was from me changing that start command, or vice versa. I don't know. Looks like it's running with this one though, so let's see what happens. Okay, so let's go back over our project for 1 second. All right, let's start with our package JSON. We should have the start command, which I will use to run it locally, which it works great after I ran the install. By the way, the reason why I deleted the package lock and the node modules several times. It's just sometimes things in there can get corrupted. In this case, I moved the server location, and there are settings inside of the package lock JSON that tell the project where my server is running from, which is why I had to basically reset that. It's kind of like clearing a cache. But anyways, sometimes you'll get corrupted packages that you just got to restart. And so you just delete node modules and the package lock JSON and run npm install. Never delete the package JSON file. That is this one, okay? This one tells you what dependencies are going to be installed, tells you the settings for the application as a whole. So yeah, don't ever delete the package JSON. That would not be good. Okay, let's see here, and then we'll run the server file, which just has our routes right here. It says what port we're going to run on. Notice that if this port is present, it'll use it. Otherwise, it'll use 3000. So I think it was like 10,000 that I saw on render a minute ago. And then we'll just log to the console that it'll run on that port. Okay, if we go over to routes, the only external file that we're using inside of our server.js file, we have this, which is just a collection of rules that say, hey, if the URL has nothing in it after our localhost whatever port, then we'll send Sarah Birch. Otherwise, if it's test, we'll send Nathan Birch. Otherwise, if it's test2, we'll send Hannah Birch. Okay, so it looks like this ran, and it is on port 10,000, which doesn't really make a difference to us. Okay, let's see if I can run that test2 now. Hannah Birch. Yep, so our latest code is here. Everything's working successfully. So let me just recap right here what we did with the settings. Okay, gave it a unique name in my account, said which branch we're going to build from, root directory we didn't change, and build command, just install our dependencies with npm install, start command, node. I wanted to use npm start. I'll look at that another time. And that's pretty much it for this page. And because I connected it to my GitHub profile and to this repository, it'll just kick off a build every single time I add a change. If I was going to add one more and say test3, let's have this be our last one. And I'll say adding Emily route. Oops. I'll say sync changes. Okay, this will show up in GitHub in a sec, and that's how fast it kicked off a new deploy here in render. Okay, so that was at 10:34. Oh, it's 10:35 already. So I committed probably what, 10 seconds ago, 15, 20 seconds ago. Let's see how long this takes. Installed our dependencies. That went so fast because it saw that there weren't any changes, and so it's like it didn't need to install anything. It saw that everything was already installed. Generating container image from build. This may take a few minutes. It's pretty quick though with smaller projects. A lot, at least these first few weeks in this class, the projects are pretty small, so they'll go. Our builds will be pretty fast. But I have projects deployed with render with another company that I use, and those are big projects, and the builds do take a little while. Especially this too. It's asking, hey, our build's too slow. Upgrade to a paid plan to go faster. They make this one nice and slow. I did not do that refresh. I don't know why that refreshed us here. Uploading build. Okay, I did pause it for a sec. We're at about 2 minutes, a little less than 2 minutes. So less than 2 minutes from the time I committed, it pushed it to GitHub. Oh yeah, I shouldn't say committed. From when I pushed it to GitHub, and then render picked up that hook and kicked off the build, the deploy. It took about 2 minutes with the size of a project. And let's see if Emily's route is working. And it is, okay? So hopefully this helps you guys. Like I said, I mean, it's trial and error for me too. So if something's not working, just give it a shot, look through the errors, try to figure something out. But these are the settings that I landed with. And that's with the code exactly how it was with the solution that I downloaded from week 1. Again, I deleted the proc file. We don't need it because we're not using Heroku. And then I added just a couple of these routes in here just for testing purposes, just to make sure that things are working the way that I want. But yeah, I didn't change anything else in here. All of this is exactly the same. So anyways, I hope that this was helpful for you guys. If you have questions or if you're having bugs or any other issues, just post on the Teams channel to get help. Thanks.